leads you here.
What's up guys, it's your boy Jazzy and today I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts about the new WoW expansion, Midnight. So currently I'm at level 82 and so far I managed to experience the open world story, questing, a delve and one dungeon. And through all these experiences I'm going to be sharing my opinion as well as comparing this with the previous WoW expansion, The War Within, as well as WoW Classic. So starting with the story and the open world setting. Now for this expansion I feel like Blizzard did a really good job to try and capture that audience who usually skips cutscenes. And let me tell you why. Usually it would start very simple and then you would be introduced like one character, second character, third character, and let's say 5 quests in you already forgot everybody's name. In this case it's not the same. They split each sub-quest into a different zone, and each different zone has an antagonist. For example, in this zone, the bad guy is this cult leader. He betrays the Blood Elves by joining Xalatath, and at first you think he's a good guy because when you share with him that like, oh, one of the Blood Elves died, and we found the corpse, and we want to know more information about her, and he seems like really sympathetic about it, but later turns out he actually was the one responsible for that Blood Elf's death, and then you go on and fight him inside the very first delve in this expansion. Once that story is over, you just move on to the next zone, and the next zone has another bad guy, and once again like you're shown why he's the bad guy. For example, he kills this human warlock, and then you go chase him, and then there's a cutscene where everything unravels, and then that one's finished, and then on to the next zone and on to the next bad guy. So there is no sort of like a compiling of many bad guys or many characters at once. They always keep it 3, maximum 4 characters in each storyline, and one of them is the bad guy, so it's quite easy to follow. So for me, usually as somebody who used to skip a lot of WoW cutscenes and just blast through each quest, this time I felt like much more immersed than I usually find myself to be. Now on to the next part, which is about delves. As you guys may know, a delve is basically a one-man dungeon. So the very first one that you do is actually part of the main story quest, and it's the conclusion of the mini storyline with the first antagonist. So going through the delve, actually I didn't really feel like it's challenging in any way. Like there were no strategic choices, there was not a time that my HP went like super low and I was worried that I'm gonna die. Actually, I don't even think I had to heal at any point whatsoever. The only cool thing I saw about it is that, first of all, there's this new follower, so it's no longer Ryan Bronzebeard, the dwarf. Now it's like a Blood Elf Hunter. And I'm hoping that there will be like a bit more things to play around with this new follower, because like I don't really remember anything meaningful that Brand has ever done aside from just making memes. So yeah, I hope that this follower has some more interesting mechanics and like in-depth strategy that we could go into. And yeah, as for the difficulty, it just felt like I'm basically doing a quest. Like I'm always like overpowered as hell, and the enemies never stood a chance. And even when fighting the last boss of the delve, it wasn't a challenge at all. So I guess I was just hoping that like you have the outside questing area, which is always going to be easy, but once you go inside the delve, like I was hoping they would make it a bit more challenging and a bit more like if you stand in the fire or like the bad stuff, like you might actually die and then you need to like learn the mechanics and pay more attention. But I felt like no, it was just the same difficulty as doing those quests outside. Now the last thing I want to talk about is dungeons. I only did one dungeon, which was from the Group Finder tool, and I want to start talking about this by comparing it to the experience of doing a dungeon in Classic WoW. Guys, I need to tell you, I was halfway through the dungeon and I noticed that I didn't even know what classes are my party members using. Like for example, I had no idea the tank was a DK, I had no idea the healer was a druid, and this is not because I don't care or I don't know how to play the game or I don't know what other classes do. It's just that it really doesn't make a difference. So here's what I mean by that. If you guys have played Classic WoW, you would know that when you're doing a dungeon, you need to make a group based on how many buffs you can get. So for example, if you get a paladin, a priest, a mage, all these 3 classes, they offer 3 different kinds of buffs. So you would form your group based on what kind of buffs you would like to get. Like if your group is mostly casters, then you would want classes that have like intellect-based buffs. If your group is like warriors, paladins, druids, then or rogues, then you would like have some classes that give like attack power buffs. In this case, guys, first of all, there are no buffs at all anymore, so it doesn't really matter who you're playing with. And second, there was not a single point at which it mattered that you're not a caster or not a DP or not a melee DPS. Like at any point, you just need to press buttons and things will die. It's really that simple. Like there is no depth at all to it. And another thing which coming out of Classic WoW I noticed immediately is that at some point there is a clutter of like too many things on the ground, too many numbers flying on the screen, and too many effects from your own spells and other people's spells. So at some point you're not even able to see what you're standing in. So let's say the boss casts like some kind of cone attack or some kind of like circular thing you're not supposed to stand in. You cannot see that. Like you need to really zoom in the camera in order to know if you're standing in a dangerous area. And in addition, your HP is not really going to go low because this is just Dungeon Finder, right? It's not that difficult. So what I'm trying to say is that just as it was in the Delve, your choices and your actions don't really matter in the dungeon. You're going to clear it anyway, most likely. So yeah, I was just hoping that Blizzard somehow fixed it and made it more interactable, more fun, more like you make a mistake, you die, or at least like your group faces some consequences, or at least push the people to have more teamwork and team play. But no, it was just like solo play, like brainless questing, just in the form of a dungeon. So yeah, that was my opinion about the dungeon in the Delve, coming straight from playing Classic WoW. So guys, I know it's still just been only 3 hours into the midnight and I haven't really played like everything. I know there's still 8 more levels. There's also player housing. There's the end game to still experience. So I'm actually quite optimistic, like I hope that as I level up more and as I quest more, there's going to be more and more fun things to do. Like I also remember there's that hunting game mode or prey system, I think it was called, yeah. So I'm quite excited, to be honest, and I feel like coming from Classic WoW into this, like I do appreciate how much faster everything feels like all those tedious tasks like walking from an NPC to another NPC in the Burning Crusade. Right now you can just drag and ride, like it takes 2 seconds literally to complete a quest sometimes, so I really do appreciate that. But there's also things I don't like, which is in Classic WoW, you make a group for a dungeon based on what kind of buffs you want. And based on that, you kind of know what your DPS is going to look like, and you can kind of even predict if you're going to clear the dungeon or not. Here, there is no such thing. You just find 5 random people. Probably you can even don't get a healer, like maybe just 1 tank and 4 DPS is enough. You can just roll through everything with ease. Like everything dies as soon as you step in front of it. It's that simple. There's no buffs, there's no team play. There is no strategy into it at all, at least not at this level. So I guess I was just hoping that Blizzard took some of the good stuff from Classic and put it in here, especially when it comes to the social aspect of the game, which is doing dungeons, because it's the same company that did the Burning Crusade and Vanilla. It's the same company that designed this really nice like 5-man teamwork gameplay that we used to love. So I'm really still quite curious why they choose to remove it at all, and why a dungeon just feels like you're playing a single player campaign. But, I do think that they just want to attract more new players, and they probably really underestimate the new players' ability to play the game, and that's why everything feels so easy and so like beginner friendly. But yeah, who knows, like maybe the end game will be much different, and maybe I will be happily surprised in the end. So thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video and want to see more, please like the video, consider subscribing, and see you in the next one. Thank you, bye bye.